that plane is going to remain on the tarmac for at least about 48 hours. And it means that of the 5 runways they have there, 2 of them are actually shut down. So all of this is going to hamper flights and some of the processes of this airport for days to come now. There were a lot of questions about the role the weather and conditions here could have played. To give you some context, between Thursday to Sunday, they received more snow here in the city of Toronto than they saw all of last year. So while we heard from the fire service that at the time of the crash, the tarmac was dry, the reality is that we're also hearing from the weather service that there were 40-mile-per-hour winds, there was -2-degree wind chill, and snow blowing. And so certainly weather is going to remain a factor in this investigation, although officials are being very careful right now to not speculate until they have more guys.
And Antonia, as we wait for more, we're hearing from passengers who were on that plane. What is their testimony like?
It's pretty unbelievable, Zinkley. I mean, you can tell as you see some of them speak that they are still in a state of shock. And thankfully, all of them are alive. We know from transported hospitals, 19 of them released this morning. And a lot of what first responders were responding to was shock, anxiety, nausea, vomiting, those kinds of symptoms. Take a listen to one person who experienced all of this.
All of a sudden, I just remember being fully sideways, and I was looking down and just seeing like sparks and flames and whatever was grinding against the ground. And then, yeah, it happened pretty dang quick, and we were just upside down hanging from our seatbelts.
The kinds of physical injuries that people suffered, we heard in the presser, were things like back injuries, sprains, and injuries to the head, so potential brain injuries that people were concerned about on the ground. The one thing that seemed certain in today's presser was that really it's the first responders and the crew that were able to get people out quite rapidly, keep calm and cool during a shocking and, of course, incredibly rare situation, and that it's thanks to them that all of these people are alive, guys.
Yeah, and we're so glad for that. Antonia Hilton, great reporting. Thank you.
Well, a bitter blast, as you just saw there, gripping much of the United States and Canada this hour. The National Weather Service warning that frigid temperatures in some places could be life-threatening.
Just take a look at this. Wind chill temperatures dipped to as low as -60 degrees in parts of North Dakota on Monday. 60 million people are under winter alerts stretching from the Central Plains to the Carolina coast.
Flood-battered Kentucky expecting up to 7 inches of snow on the heels of that punishing weekend storm, series of storms that have killed at least 14 people. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster. He's in hard-hit Kentucky. Also with us with the forecast is NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. But I'll start with you, Shaq, because you're out in it. Could the winter weather this week that they're going to get, I assume, affect everything that's happening around you, all the recovery efforts?
Absolutely, and that was the warning that you heard from the governor earlier today that essentially, one, put a deadline for folks to say, if you don't have running water, if you don't have electricity, you need to seek shelter now because the temperatures are going to plunge, but also saying that the cleanup efforts that you're seeing in areas like the one I'm in now are being hampered because there are preparations in place for the upcoming snowstorm. I want you to listen to a conversation I had with an emergency operator here in Bettyville and listen to what he told me about the breakdown of staff and resources because of this incoming storm.
And we're just a small town. I think I've heard it described as a dozen eggs doing 36 jobs, so everybody has to do 3 things. The fireman that shows up in your emergency may be the mailman you see every day, or the guy that sells you gas to heat your house with, maybe the guy that runs search and rescue, or the sheriff used to work at the grocery store. It's, everybody does multiple things in these small towns, and we all pitch in, and that's the only way we can succeed, and so far it's worked for us.
Shaq, thank you. Bill, let's bring you in now. Sub-zero temperatures are also gripping much of the northern part of the country. How dangerous is this wind chill?
Yeah, this morning was the coldest that Bismarck has been in 16 years. So this has been significant, and all that cold air is heading south. It's not every day that Dallas and San Antonio are under extreme cold warnings. And it's late in the year for this, too. I mean, typically the southern half of the country, you're not this cold as we head towards the second half of February. So here's the current temperatures feels like right now. -37 in Montana is the lowest, but what stands out is Wichita's at -21. Kansas City, it's snowing and -18. 2019. And we're going to break numerous records over the next 3 days as this cold air mass settles in. So tomorrow, Montana, -20 in Billings will break your daily record low. Valentine, Nebraska, Denver, you're going to come close to yours. Childress, Texas, Tulsa. And then it gets really widespread by the time we get to Thursday from Cedar Rapids all the way down to Shreveport. Mobile has a chance of breaking your records. And the only other thing we have to worry about, after we get rid of this cold, it does warm up significantly. But as we go through the upcoming weekend, we're going to rise in the Pacific Northwest. The weather by far with this upcoming weekend, as that's the new stormy spot with a lot of rain.
All right, Bill Cameron's a lot to watch. Shaq Brewster, thank you both.
The U.S. and Russia have agreed to create high-level teams to focus on ending the war in Ukraine.
Top officials from both countries met for 4.5 hours in Saudi Arabia earlier today. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says they plan to improve diplomatic ties by restoring embassy staffing in Moscow and in Washington, D.C. Ukraine did not take part. Ukraine will not accept a peace deal if it's made without their involvement.
NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons is in Saudi Arabia and joins us now. Keir, what else are you hearing from U.S. and Russian officials about today's talks, and where do things between the two countries go now?
Well, this is a seismic shift, Sinclair. I mean, if you think about it, many people would have been expecting, based on President Trump's promises during the election, that this meeting will have been fully focused on whether they could reach some kind of a ceasefire in Ukraine. But what we really got, though, was something like a roadmap for restoring relations between the U.S. and Russia. Now, remember that the U.S., with its European allies and other allies, has been on a mission in recent years to try to isolate Russia. It has now unlocked that effort at isolation. The Trump administration is talking about potentially cooperation in economic issues, which might suggest relieving sanctions. No sign so far of a potential ceasefire, no sign of a potential meeting between President Trump and President Putin anytime soon. And one of the Russian officials I caught up with today saying, okay, things have moved very quickly today, but still there's a lot of work to do.
It's a slow, difficult process.
No meeting between President Trump and President Putin anytime soon.
Well, I would say it's a long road ahead, many differences. We need to manage expectations. But this dialogue of two, strategic powers in the world is very important. And the world is a much safer place now when this dialogue started to happen.
All of this, Kate and Sinclair, will have left Europeans stunned, left on the outside of all of this and watching their ally America cozying up, if you like, to Russia, despite everything that's happened in the past few years with Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. President Zelensky wasn't here. He was set to come here to Saudi Arabia tomorrow. He has cancelled that trip. It is a tectonic shift. President Trump promised that there would be changes to the stalemate in Ukraine, and he certainly is delivering that.
Keir Simmons in Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Let's turn to some business news now. Major layoffs at Southwest Airlines.
And Coca-Cola is launching a new soda. Courtney Reagan joins us now with today's CNBC Money Minute. Hey, Courtney.
Hi, good afternoon, Kate and Zinkley. So Southwest Airlines announced it's cutting around 15% of its corporate workforce. That's more than 1,700 positions as it tries to streamline the carrier's operations and save on costs. Now, the budget airline said the cuts will start in April and include more than 10 senior leadership positions. Interestingly, it's the first time Southwest has conducted a mass layoff in its 53-year history. Well, YouTube TV has reached a long-term contract with Paramount that would keep CBS and other channels available.